the hell do you get fired on your day off? How in the hell do you get fired from a job that no one even knew that you had? Better yet, how do you get fired twice in the last 2 months? In the last 2 months, Taylor Lorenz has been fired by the Washington Post and now by Vox Media. Well, Casey, that's not true. Tay-Tay was not fired by the Washington Post. She voluntarily resigned because she wanted to be an independent media personality. There are 2 problems with that plan. Number 1, in order to be a personality, you first have to have one. Number 2, if you want to launch a career independently in the media, an independent content creator, you got to have charisma. You've got to provide value, prove your worth. Taylor Lorenz, she is about as useful as an empty tube of Preparation H at the Butt Bongo Festival. Useless. You know, we have seen a lot of these former media members, these self-described stars, launch their careers independently once they have been fired by the mainstream. Now, the vast majority of cases, end result, always the same. Huge embarrassing failure. Which, this reminds me, let me address something really quick. I received another angry email last night from a viewer. He was pissed off because I did not credit him for creating the Huge Embarrassing Failure Awards. But then he turned around and said that he didn't want credit for coming up with the idea. He wanted me to credit a random viewer of the channel for the idea, and he demanded that I quit deleting his comments here on YouTube. For starters, I don't delete comments. I have never deleted comments. I receive over 1,000 comments every day. You think I've got the time to sit around and delete every nasty comment that I receive? YouTube has a filter, and the filter, it deletes comments that YouTube deems inappropriate. I have no control over it. Number 2, I have been using the term huge embarrassing failure for years now. It is entirely possible, it's even likely, that one of you guys, one of my viewers, came up with the idea for the HEF Awards based on me coming up with the term huge embarrassing failure and using it. I use your ideas all the time, and I appreciate them. I say all the time that a lot of the topics discussed on this channel are topics that you guys email me. But that doesn't mean that every time I talk about something, I owe an abundance of credit. But I always thank people by email if I use one of their ideas. Matt, I'm not going to say his last name, but Matt, he sends me clips and topics on a daily basis. I will always appreciate him because he makes my job easier. This afternoon's topic, it came from Spence, one of my channel members. But the other 99.9% of my audience, you guys don't care who came up with the idea. And most people who send me ideas, they're not seeking credit anyway. They're just trying to help me out, and I always appreciate it. So, to the dude who emailed me last night demanding that I sing his praises publicly, since you want credit for creating the Huge Embarrassing Failure Awards, here is your credit. Now, you go have an award show on your own channel. You put in the research, you spend the time and make it comedic and entertaining. Then you put it on your platform and you can soak up all the glory that you want. Then someone that watches you can send you a pissed off email taking all the credit for the work that you have done. Anyway, a lot of these former media members, they launch their careers independently once they are replaced in the mainstream by someone who is more diverse or more inclusive. In most cases, end result, always the same, huge embarrassing failure. Jemele Hill gets fired by the worldwide leader in woke, ESPN. She launches a podcast called Jemele Hill is Unbothered by Men Who Aren't Interested. Podcast along with her memoir on mythical racism, failure. Bomani Jones, the originator for the term huge embarrassing failure, the one who should be given credit for creating the HEF Awards. Bomani Jones, he was allergic to success when he had the mainstream machine at ESPN desperately trying to get someone, anyone, to watch him. So it should come as no surprise that Bomani Jones is not replicating the success of Shannon Sharpe here on YouTube. Hey, it's me, Shay Shay! When Taylor Lorenz was fired, or when she quit her job at the Washington Post before she could get fired, she claimed that she was quitting to go independent. All my women independent, why are you so unhappy? She was going to leave her easy job at the Washington Post, where she was collecting woke welfare for contributing nothing and revealing the private identities of her political enemies. And she was going to launch a career as an independent content creator and become filthy rich. Unfortunately for Taylor Lorenz, less than 60 days into her career as an independent content creator, her YouTube channel is the drizzling shits, and she has already been fired by Vox Media. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. My team is counting your nominations as we speak for the upcoming second annual Huge Embarrassing Failure Awards, created by some random viewer desperately seeking the approval of Uncle KC. I'm hoping to have the poll ready for you guys to vote on later this week, just giving you a heads up. Yesterday, reports were surfacing that Taylor Lorenz had been fired by Vox Media. Most people were surprised when they saw these reports. Most people had no idea that Taylor Lorenz had a distribution deal for her podcast with Vox Media. Other people, they had no idea who in the hell Taylor Lorenz was. The reason Tay-Tay was fired, it's rather obvious. I'm actually surprised that it took Vox almost a full week to distance themselves from the Princess of Poopery. Although they haven't said this was the official reason, it's pretty much confirmed. Vox Media fired Taylor Lorenz for her disgusting celebration of the death of Brian Thompson. Now, for those that don't know, Brian Thompson, he was the CEO of United Healthcare who was gunned down last week in Manhattan. The suspect was arrested yesterday in Pennsylvania in possession of his manifesto. I'd be willing to bet the media, they're going to have no problem with the manifesto being released to the public since, you know, the suspect in this case, he prefers to keep his cucumber instead of having it surgically removed. If he had changed his name from Luigi to Princess Peach, the media, they would fight for his right to privacy, a right that he surrendered as soon as he took someone else's right to live. Last week, Taylor Lorenz, she was leading the celebration in the death of Brian Thompson. Now, she is celebrating unemployment because it cost her her job at Vox Media, which is probably the only media company left that was willing to work with Taylor Lorenz. Well, KC, this story is bullshit! According to Tay-Tay, she hasn't been fired by Vox Media. She is simply taking some time off, a sabbatical, to participate in one of her favorite hobbies, which is ruining Christmas for those evil people who celebrate it. When this story broke yesterday morning, several people were commenting on Twitter. They were celebrating the fact that Taylor Lorenz lost another revenue stream of woke welfare. Now, normally, I am not one to celebrate someone losing their job, unless, of course, their name is Dennis Allen, but I have zero sympathy for Taylor Lorenz. To her credit, she's not looking for my sympathy because she is still under the delusion that she's got a job at Vox Media. Problem is, she doesn't. Which begs the question, if Taylor Lorenz knew she was fired, why would she be denying it publicly? I'm assuming that Vox Media told her first. I'm assuming they either emailed or called Taylor Lorenz to notify her that her services were no longer needed. I'm assuming they told her they were no longer interested in distributing her shitty podcast. there isn't really much to distribute because no one is listening or watching this garbage. Taylor Lorenz has 24,000 subscribers on YouTube. In the past 12 months, she has drawn just over 800,000 views. Now, just to give you some context, my second channel is 15 weeks old, less than 4 months old. I have no distribution deal with anyone in the media. In 15 weeks, my second channel is about to eclipse 1 million views. In over 52 weeks, Taylor Lorenz has barely eclipsed 800,000. She ain't making money on YouTube. 800,000 views in 12 months, that's probably anywhere from $300 to $600 a month. I'm assuming Vox has taken a cut of that, which means if Taylor Lorenz is relying on her YouTube income, she is well below the poverty line. Anyway, Taylor Lorenz spent most of the day yesterday telling anyone who was willing to listen that she had not been fired by Vox Media. Question is, why? This story was initially reported by Breitbart. It was later confirmed to be true by the New York Post. If you know you've been fired, if multiple reliable sources are confirming that you have been fired, why in the hell would you be denying it publicly? Obviously, I can only speculate. I cannot get into the mind of Taylor Lorenz, nor do I have any interest in doing so. But I think Taylor Lorenz is doing this for attention. I think Taylor Lorenz is desperate for attention. She is begging to be noticed. She yearns for validation. You gotta remember, 2, maybe 3 years ago, Taylor Lorenz, she was viewed as a rising star in the woke media. Normal people didn't view her that way. Normal people were repulsed by Tay-Tay. But the deplorables in the woke media, they viewed her as a rising star. They knew Taylor Lorenz was willing to wear a mask years after Fauci retired. They knew Taylor Lorenz was willing to publicly humiliate herself to further the agenda, further the narrative. This is the same Taylor Lorenz who borrowed Ryan Clark's Onion, Crying Ryan from ESPN. She borrowed his Onion so she could break down in tears on MSNBC, pretending to be terrified of the criticism she was receiving on social media. This is the same Taylor Lorenz who is being promoted as the potential new face of the Washington Post. She was accustomed to receiving attention. She was accustomed to receiving validation. Now, she's a nobody. When you're addicted to attention, you will take it any way you can get it. Taylor Lorenz spent the entire day yesterday refuting claims that she had been fired, all so she would be noticed. Remember last week when I said Taylor Lorenz had to be miserable to celebrate the death of Brian Thompson? You guys remember that? If you didn't believe me then, I just gave you further proof of her misery. Give me your thoughts on this. Taylor Lorenz fired by Vox Media, but she refutes the reports on social media so she can stretch her final 15 seconds of fame. What a life! Is her mainstream media career over? Is Taylor Lorenz capable of building an audience on her own and building a platform independently? You tell me. Sound off in the comments below. Best way to contact me is through email, btlkc84@gmail.com. I'll see you guys later.